Sometimes when you're traveling to a determined location, you stop alongside the road in a beautiful town and find that there's a tremendous amount of pioneer and Native American history. Welcome to Cedar City, Utah. Come along with us and join the adventure. Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. Today we have made our way to Cedar City in our travels to a new location. This is the Frontier Homestead State Park and Museum. You can see behind me, or in front of me now, is actually some Southern Pacific rail cars and one huge, what looks like steam engine here that used to run on the rails through Utah. We'll get a closer look at that, and also this amazing museum and all the artifacts and history that came here to this museum in Utah. A little bit of wind here in Cedar City, but that's okay. Keeps it nice and cool. But look at the size of this. Not exactly sure what this is. It looks like some kind of a giant digging machine. That's got to be a good 40 feet into the air. And there's some stairs over here to look inside. Look at the workings on the inside of this. And I can't imagine trying to work inside of something like this with all the exposed parts, wheels and cables. That looks extremely dangerous. But I'm sure it had its purpose. This is a ore shovel, is what I was told. So ore shovel, a major piece of machinery. I couldn't tell you how much ore or earth this could move, but it is some solid steel. So this is an ore shovel, and this made it to the county in 1936. And according to what this is, the operator of this ore shovel made 48 cents per hour to operate this giant piece of machinery. And you can see that it rotated, and look at the gearing for this to rotate on these huge tracks. A 1930s ore shovel. Who'd have thought that they made something this big in the 1930s? Let's head on into the museum. And here at the museum, there is no shortage of wagons. You can see a tremendous amount here. The Wells Fargo and Company Express. And a few others here. Look at this one. This almost looks like it would be an automobile the way it's all enclosed. And there's what I like to see, the old stagecoach. And this one here is original for sure. And this one says the Overland stage cost around $600 compared to $1,100 for the Concord coach. So that's how much these were new, $600. This was along in the late 1800s. See, the driver would ride high right up there with the luggage. The old Wells Fargo Overland stage. Now, a lot of the wagons say you can't get in them, but in this one you can walk right in the other door. You can see it has a passenger right there. These are really well preserved. You can see the suspension on this. You can see it rocking. So it actually has leaf springs in operation. And it's quite the step down. U.S. mail. You can see this one has the lanterns on front. It looks pretty nice, a little bit ornate. And on top of that, it has the tassel shades in the windows to be able to protect you from the sun. And a convertible roof right there that opens up. Hopefully you can see the quality of that interior. Looks like it came equipped with seat belts of some sort or something there, like you could tie yourself down. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece, kept in great shape. Here you go, here's some old West pioneer weaponry. Old revolvers. There's a 44 6-shot U.S. Marine or U.S. Army, revolver. See the old side-by-side. And these are around 1900. 32 caliber pistols. And that's the old model 1897 riot gun, 12 gauge. And then more revolvers. Kind of funny, but most of them are all 32 caliber, really small caliber weapons. It looks like an old cavalry sword there. That's what it is, U.S. Cavalry official sword. 1857 looks like. And this is an 1800s hearse, as you can see here. And it's said, of course, that they used to be that hearses were just simply flat buckboards. But then in the 1800s, they made them a little bit classier. Suspension and lanterns and a little bit of velvet seats made them a little fancier. And the old water wagons right here as well, well preserved. This one is built around 1894. You can see the suspension they had there, and the big wooden water tank, and the seat way up top. And the Cedar Crest Dairy Quality Services, the old dairy wagon, being pulled by a couple of fiberglass horses. This delivery wagon says it was around 1924. So out of the museum and onto the grounds, you can see a tremendous amount of farming equipment and wagons all through here. And I guess they're getting ready here in a couple of days for their 50th anniversary. So 50 years of the museum being open and their anniversary. And there's some special stuff about these little houses here that were original homes that were moved here. Let's get the details. Now this is the old jail. This was located formerly west of Cedar City and north of US Highway 56. The jail held unruly passengers and other lawbreakers until the sheriff arrived to deal with them. So this is where they would put you if you broke the law, until the sheriff came to pick you up. You can see that is, of course, heavy iron. You're not going to be getting out of that, but boy, that's going to be awfully hot. Sitting in the sun, waiting for the sheriff to pick you up. It'd almost be a blessing for him to pick you up. And there's the beds that you would sleep on, all chained up. Now this is an old pioneer cabin. It is said that 24 children were given birth to in this cabin. And I can't imagine that you could be in here with more than 2 people living. But of course that was probably throughout all the years that happened with these pioneers. But 24 children in this one small cabin. And again, this was an original cabin that was placed here. You can see the timbers and how that was built. The crazy history and the things that must have gone on inside this cabin. And now we're literally standing in that exact cabin. So this cabin where the children were all given birth to is the oldest cabin in southern Utah, the oldest home in southern Utah, right here that we're standing in, and it is still in fantastic condition. Of course, it's been put back together and restored, but this is a huge piece of Utah history. This is the old Deseret Schoolhouse. And you can see here, this is all original log schoolhouse with the dunce hat right in the corner. You can see the old potbelly stove. Now this is the schoolhouse where the teacher, of course, taught. So up these stairs to the top of the schoolhouse is actually where the teacher sleeping quarters were. And they're still here. The window to look outside, and I can't imagine how hot or cold it would get up here. Thank goodness the potbelly stove is downstairs and it pipes out right over there. Probably put a little heat up here. But that is where the teacher would sleep above the schoolhouse. So it said the pioneers wanted the best quality teachers, and one way to do that was to offer them the opportunity to teach, and of course get paid to do that, and give them free room and board. So the room and board was right up here on top of the schoolhouse. All right, so walking through here, there's no shortage of buildings for sure. And we're gonna head in over here. This is like a really nice home, as you can see here. All made out of brick. Let's go on inside. Let's see what this one's all about. Nice old porch. Closed door when entering and leaving the house. You don't want anything getting in or out. So this is the Hunter house. You can see it has been preserved and restored very nicely. Beautiful fireplace. And a lot of antiques in here, of course, and original furniture. Now the first sections of this home were built in 1866, so that's how old this house is. Mannequin. So that's the interesting part. Then there's an addition that was built onto this house as late as I want to say it was 69-ish. And you can see how beautiful this was. The ceilings are extremely high. And a lot of old phonographs, and I think you call these a pump organ, where you pump it with your feet and the bellows make the noise with the keys. There's an upstairs here too. We have to go see that. All right, let's head upstairs and see what we can find. These are interesting stairs. Going off through that door. And then some extra ones going up to the left. You can see the flooring in the home is amazing plank flooring. See what kind of old time things they have in here. A lot of hand tools. Tape measures and saws. Old toolboxes. Iron collections. We actually have one of these, an old fluted iron that you heat up, and it made the fluted collars. Didn't know what it was for the longest time. More hand saws and planes. Antique tools. Well, that's a well-preserved old wheelchair. And antiques. Does that chair have a footrest on it? That must be an original recliner. All right, so this is the Rass Jones sheep shearing shed. Now I've seen a picture of this and heard about it, but this is supposed to be amazing on the inside, and shows how they used to shear sheep and the way it was done.
Now the most valuable wool is still a very fine wool, and
it's got a little TV that tells you all about it.
It's very expensive clothing. What we do now is
they sheared the sheep.
We separate the wool into lengths.
And you can see the belt work here
3 lengths. It goes
that actually turned and made all of this turn up here and ran the shears. So the mechanical shears actually went and sheared the sheep, and it would fall through down in here and go down below.
The longer wool.
When this is all still
through the wool cooperative,
put together.
It goes from the wool cooperative to the mills and comes back as
An amazing old sheep barn.
normally commercial lamb producers.
With photo ops right there. You can put your head right through there and be a farmer or be a sheep. Your choice. Got some examples here of how they bagged the wool. So what they would do is when they sheared the sheep, they would throw the wool in these bags. The bags would be full, and the people underneath would then take the wool in these bags, bag it up, and haul it off. And you can see the untreated wool, washed wool, but it hadn't been carded. And this is washed and carded, which makes the wool ready for market to be able to make clothing and those kind of things. And you can see the clippers there. They hooked up. That's one of the mechanical ones that they used, and the blades to shear the sheep. And there's one of the old hand tools, like a giant pair of scissors that they used to shear. And I can't imagine how big and strong the hands would have been to somebody that sheared sheep with a pair of those pruning shears that they use for the sheep, like giant scissors. I can't imagine it. One thing for sure, there's no shortage of wagons to look at. And you can see some of these buckboards and, of course, like old schooner looking wagons. As much as I know about wagons, you can tell these were more high-end because they had the comfortable seats and the material. It's now rotting off of them. And the foot brake on the back. It just appears to me that that brake wouldn't help much by using your feet if you were being pulled by a bunch of horses that were taken off. That looks like an old farming wagon. They would haul a bunch of material in, or hay or something. And obviously a covered wagon without the cover. Looks like it's laying in the back over there. This piece over here obviously looks like some kind of a wagon that was horse-drawn farm equipment. Probably harvested something like wheat or hay or corn or something. Looks like the driver would sit right next to that mechanical piece of sharpness there, turning by your feet. And it was belt driven, you can see here. So I'm sure when those wheels were turning in the back, it picked something up there where this mechanical part drove all of these things. And then obviously it put whatever product it was that it was harvesting there. And this probably swung out and dumped everything into the back of the wagon. That is mechanical engineering at its finest. Okay, I hope you can hear me with the wind. Well, we are going to go explore a Native American pit house over here, and also a couple of lean-tos, the way that I believe it was the Paiute, I'll make sure of that, but this is a Native American heritage exhibit. And so the Paleo Indians and the ancestral Puebloan, Anasazi, the Fremont and the Southern Paiute are some of these homes that are here, the way that they lived and shelters that they had. But let's walk into the pit house over here, because this is a really good replica of that. Into the pit house. Oh, look at that. Well, they've done a great job of building this here. See the ladders all held together with leather and vines and timber. And there's the exit right there. But we won't climb. We don't want to bust it. But this is a good version of an old pit house. I've seen pit houses before, just the holes in the ground. In some of the videos we've had, I'll actually link one of the videos on the end screen of the Anasazi ruins that we found in the area as well. up by Red Rock. But this is a really interesting pit house. Now it says the Parowan Fremont, a prehistoric Puebloan group, lived in this area from AD 900 to AD 1300. And they practiced agricultural and beautiful pottery. So that's what they lived in, was these homes here. Now that's just history that I read about. I've had some people question those things and the timelines. Not for me to determine, that's for an archaeologist to find out about, but just talking about what I'm reading here on the placards. And this is the Southern Paiute. And those bands arrived in Utah over 700 years ago. And it says that historically, dwelling places for the Paiute were rock overhangs and bush shelters just like these. And you can see where that would be a shelter when you're in the desert and there's not really much to make a home out of, to get out of the shade and have a little bit of cover. Build yourself a fire and just kind of relax in your little weed and tweed and stick bungalow. And that's them. I'm gonna head on the back trail here and see that looks like there's a kind of a fort built up here. We'll see what that's about. This is one big museum, so kind of fun to see. Oh, there's an old sawmill up here as well. Look at that. So they do exhibitions here, and I'm pretty sure they might run this. I'm not sure, but they have the blacksmith area that's active. Sometimes during the 50th anniversary, they're going to be doing that. Look at the saw blade on that. All right, so just outside of what looks like a fort in the distance, there's quite a few pieces of farm equipment. Now again, in a lot of the mining towns, I always ask, if you know what these things are, let us know. But same goes here. So if you know what some of these pieces of farming equipment are, let me know, because a lot of them are just in pieces. As you can see, the old wood wagon wheels there, and some plow seats. This obviously looks like it was pulled or something, but it has like a bucket on the back. So maybe some kind of a dredge. Looks like there was wheels on it. And obviously some kind of an old plow there with a... I always get a kick out of this. I mean, how comfortable could that be, riding on that all day long? And they didn't have hot tubs back then to relax in, so I can't imagine how beat up they used to get. And that's interesting. It's got a big bunch of wood put together with metal to roll. Anybody has any idea, that I would love to know what that would have been part of. And this looks like something from a Flintstones cartoon. Now there were a lot of forts and outposts throughout Utah with the Mormon militia, and of course they had the Wells Fargo stagecoach outposts and things, and they built structures like this to protect themselves from any shenanigans that would go on, maybe from Native Americans or maybe even outlaws. But this kind of represents what maybe one of those forts or outposts would look like. And we've visited a few of the stone forts that are around here in Utah as well, and those are fascinating. But this kind of takes place of what might be a wooden fort, and you can see how that could give you some protection, you know, just from keeping things out of an area where people were staying to relax and maybe wait for a stagecoach or something. And that kind of gives you an idea what it would be like. And there's another fiberglass horse with an amazing old wagon full of heirlooms, or boxes that say that anyway. And I saw this over here in the corner. This was a little ways away. I'm just curious, this is a snow tank. Now, this was brought to the area by Gronway Perry in the late 1940s. The tank proved a popular and valuable resource for local farmers and outdoor enthusiasts. It's only one of two in existence, and I helped them get through a blizzard in 1948 and 1949. It carried hay to starving cattle. Look at this. This is like an old snowcat, Arctic cat. Well, maybe it got through the snow, but I can't imagine trying to survive sitting in there. You'd be freezing in that thing. But look at what would be the blades. That would be the track that helped this thing pull through the snow. I can't imagine how heavy that would be. You'd think it would just sink and sit there. But this thing saved cattle by delivering hay in all the snow. Only 2 in existence. That is a piece of machinery. So we found much more than we thought we would here at the Homestead Pioneer Museum here in Cedar City. So I encourage anybody, if they're on the road down the 15 headed towards St. George, Utah, or if they're headed up north towards Salt Lake, to stop by and see the museum in your travels like we have done, as there's absolutely no shortage of things to see. So we certainly enjoyed the time here, had a lot of fun. I'd say it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to go through the place, and there's a lot more history. As you can see in all of these locations, there's information just stacked in these buildings, and we could have shared a lot more with you. It would have been a very lengthy video. We'd like you to like and subscribe to the channel, as we appreciate it. It helps drive the channel, and of course it builds the channel for us and helps us grow the channel, and that's really what we're after. We hope you enjoy the videos. Be sure to like and subscribe again. I probably already said that. And until our next adventure, goodbye from Weekend Escapades, and we'll see you in the next one.